So Stranger Things may be expanding as a franchise, but its latest spin-off actually fixes one of the biggest problems with the main show struggled for years. With Stranger Things Tales from 85, the series take a noticeable different approach, and in doing so, it finally avoids what many considered its weakest subplot. If you have watched the original show, you have probably noticed a recurring pattern. Alongside the core story about the kids and the Upside Down, there's always a parallel storyline involving military or government forces trying to control or weaponize what's happening in Hawkins. On paper, that sounds interesting, but in execution, it often felt like distraction. This storyline tended to slow down the pacing, pulling focus away from characters we actually care about. Instead of adding depth, they sometimes feel repetitive or underdeveloped. Even in later season, when the stakes were higher, these subplots rarely match the emotional or narrative strength of the main story. By the time season 5 rolled out, that issue became more noticeable. The military focused arc introduced new characters and conflict, but they didn't feel as compelling. Despite the potential, the storyline line lacked nuance and its motivation felt surface level. It became one of those elements that audience sat through rather than got invested in. That's what makes Tales from 85 such a refreshing change. The spin-off strips all of that away. Instead of splitting attention between multi large scale plot, it focuses almost entirely on the core group, characters like Level, Mike, Dustin, Lucas, Will, and Max. The story feels tighter, more character driven, and much more aligned with what made the original series work in the first place. But the biggest difference is in how it handles subplots. Rather than stretching side stories across an entire season, Tales from 85 uses a more episodic format. Each episode tells its own contained story, almost like a monster of the week, while still contributing to a larger narrative. That structure changes everything because now side stories don't overstay their welcome. Characters can come in, have their moment, and leave without dragging the pacing down. For example, when familiar faces like Steve or Nancy appear, their roles are focused and purposeful. They add to the story without taking it over. It gives the show a lighter, more dynamic feel, and more importantly, it keeps the spotlight where it belongs, on the relationships, the mystery, and the sense of adventure. This format also makes the series feel more consistent. You're not jumping back and forth between tones or storylines that don't quite fit together. Instead, everything feels streamlined and intentional. In a way, it's written to what made Stranger Things special in the beginning, a small group of characters facing strange and dangerous situations driven by curiosity, loyalty, and friendship. The absence of the military subplot highlights just how much it used to weigh the story down. Without it, the pacing improves, the focus sharpens, and overall experience becomes more engaging. Of course, this doesn't mean the spin off is perfect. Its lighter, more episodic nature might not appeal to everyone, especially those who prefer the darker, more serialized storytelling of the original series. But as an experiment, it works. By removing one of the show's most frustrating elements, Tales from 85 proves that sometimes less really is more. And if the franchise continues in this direction, it might finally find a better balance between expanding its world and staying true to what made it work in the first place. Thank you for watching. Bye.